Malcontent News is a team of journalists, activists, and researchers with three key missions. A commitment to show an unfiltered view of the before, during, and after of key events, live, as it happens. To defend the First Amendment using our rights of a free press. And to amplify the voices of underrepresented individuals including Black, Indigenous, persons of color, and the LGBTQIA+ community. Our team is committed to seeking equality for all and holding those in power accountable. The easiest way to support Malcontent News is to bookmark our website at malcontentnews.com, like and follow us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter, TikTok, Twitch, Instagram, and in the Google News app. To provide financial support, you can become a patron, make a one-time donation through Venmo, or link your Twitch account to your Amazon Prime account and use your free subscription to subscribe to Malcontent News. Thank you for supporting independent journalism and for being a malcontent. Good evening, malcontents. I am David. I am the Malcontent. Welcome to another impromptu Malcontentment happy hour. Hello, Kimberly. How are you? I don't know. I was actually wondering. I don't remember seeing your name the last couple of times. Dora, Renee, and Shelly are in the house. Wicked thirsty. Sorry. So unprofessional. But I am wicked thirsty. There isn't like, it's not like Monday where it's just like, oh my God, there's so much to cover. There's probably two big stories to cover today. Rashi, gay variable arsenate. The Kraus, Spacey Gracie. Oh my God, haven't seen Spacey Gracie in a while. Dan, thank you for joining us again tonight, and thank you for your continued support. By the way, Catherine, welcome. Look at this. The whole gang is here. This is probably a good time to remind people to go ahead and spam those hearts. Spam those hearts if you're watching us on Twitter or Facebook. By doing that, you mess with the algorithm, particularly on Facebook, and you make people think there's actually worthwhile content to watch here. If you're watching us on Twitch, you can use our emotes, like K Variable is using them right now. And if you're watching us on YouTube, sorry, you guys, don't get any love over there. I'm not a scotch drinker. No scotch. Wendy's in the house. Wendy, we have some PDX. Well, not PDX, but we have Oregon news tonight. Some of the stuff we're going to be covering. All right. The big dominant news story today, there's two of them. We had the incident in Washington, D.C., and we'll get into that last. And then we also have we have COVID, right? Because that's what we said we're going to be focusing on. So the surge continues in the state of Washington. And with that, let me go ahead and pull up the graphic. Go ahead and give me 1 second here. Ta-da! There's your graphic. So we are now up to 437.9 cases per 100,000 people. The goal is 25. If you want to be under 25, we're at 437.9. It's not good. There's no way to kind of candy coat that. The curve, excuse me, the curve is kind of, it's not like this. It's starting to do like maybe that. So We'll see what happens with that. It would be good, right, to continue to see it go that way. If we look at some of these numbers here, Benton County, 1,054 per 100,000. Franklin County, 1147. That's like around where Ferry County was when they had their super spreader event in April and they shut everything down. They went to like stage 2. Grant County's at 621. Lincoln County almost to 500. Walla Walla's at 613. Always like to Spokane 517. That's a crap show in Spokane. Clark County 353, which is not great. Cowlitz County pushing 1,000. Cowlitz County, home of a sheriff that doesn't believe in COVID. If we go here, Pierce County 508. King County's now up to 340. Snohomish County's at 382. And then if we look over here, San Juan, which is always kind of our bright spot, even San Juan is up to 184.5. If we go to the plumbus, Rick and Morty fans will know what a plumbus is. Everybody should have a plumbus. Don't you think Garfield County looks a little bit like a plumbus that's been straightened out? Plumbus here, they're at 179.8. And honestly, where they're showing 4 cases detected in the last 2 weeks, I don't know if I've ever seen that many cases in Garfield County. These numbers there's just no other way to put it. We'll get into test numbers a little bit later because the state numbers are not accurate and they have the disclaimer on there. Here's the thing that's a little bit more important. If we go hospital utilization, that's at 85.7% statewide. There's about 1,400 and change acute care beds, staffed acute care beds left in Washington State. Don't forget that number includes like pediatric beds, infant cribs. So don't think there's 1,452 adult beds remaining in the state. It's really, really that's important to understand. King County, they're at 91% for all intents and purposes of acute care beds are in use in King County. If you go down to Pierce County, this is the West District, which includes Pierce County. They're getting really, really close to the line of running out of resources in the West District or West Region. They're now at 93.7 of beds used. I can do this math in my head. They have 104 acute care beds left in the West Region, West Health Care Region in the state of Washington, which includes Tacoma. If we go out here east, they're at 91.2%. South Central, calling out to South Central, they're at 86.3%. Southwest continues to do pretty good. What I don't know, and I've said this before, I don't know if the sickest patients are going across into Portland, and that's why this area is showing better, or if they're heading up north into the West District. Beds occupied by COVID patients, 1,205. Where there's 1,205 acute care patients in the state of Washington. 13.4% of everybody in an acute care bed in the state has COVID. Only one region, the North region, which includes Snohomish County, is under 10%. If you're over 10%, it's no bueno. Let's go to ICU. ICU utilization is 85.5%. If we go to King County has now gone up to 87.4%. 56 ICU beds left in King County. That is equal to the lowest number we saw last week. What I don't know, and we have a question in for clarification with the Department of Health, is this 445 numbers. Well, it says total adult. So anyway, I've just answered my own question, and the Department of Health You could ignore my email. Just after this thing, I'm going to write and say, ignore my email. I just answered my own question. Let it go. The West. Again, this is down here, including the Tacoma and Pierce County. 11 ICU beds left in the West region. 95.5% of all ICU beds are occupied. Almost somewhere like maybe, closer, I guess, to 1 in 4 than 1 in 3. 28% of all patients in ICU have COVID. 342. The count dropped by 58 yesterday. So we'll take that as good news. If we go to Central, any county that is over 20% by CDC is considered strained, that the hospital system is strained if more than 20% of the patients in the ICUs have COVID. They're considered extremely strained if it gets over 60%. King County's at 27.2. This is just eek. North is 1 out of 3. West 2 out of 5 down here. So they're really, really strained. North Central almost at basically at 45%. Almost half of the patients there. Spokane is actually doing pretty good for ICU. They're at 18.9%, relatively speaking, compared to the rest of the state. South Central, they're at 20%. Again, down here in the Southwest, they're at 12%. So it's not good. Go get. If you're not vaccinated, go get vaccinated, please. Wear a mask. I'm wearing a mask like crazy. Courtney's in the house. Hello, Courtney. Shell's in the house. Anyway, those are the numbers. Yeah, I know. It's not good. Next, we're going to go ahead and provide you some other information here. We actually have some pretty fascinating stuff that came out of the CDC today. One of the things I want to talk about is there's been a lot of talk about breakthrough infections, a lot of concern about breakthrough infections. We have some numbers. There was a study that's been done in the metro New York area. So it's a study of 13.9 million people. That's pretty good. That's right out of the gate. That's really big representative sample size. It was done over 90 days. It was done from May 3 to July 25. I know someone's going to get bananic and go, that's like 80 days. It's basically a 3-month study. At the start of that study, you had New York City still having restrictions, mask mandate and dining outdoors. And the dominant strain was Alpha. And Delta only represented about 2% of the cases. At the end of this study, Delta was representing 80% of cases, and New York had lifted its restrictions. So this is actually a really good study that's been done using a very large data set to show what is going on with breakthrough cases. So let me drop it down for you. This is what we've learned. There are, let me do this so you can see what I see. Let me do this. I'm going to pull these up here so you can see. This is all on the website, by the way. But I'm going to go ahead and share this with y'all. If it'll let me. It's not cooperating here. Should have had this queued up. Let me go ahead and share the screen. There we go. That's where we want to share. These charts right here. And I know the one chart's just a little cut off a little bit. Let me tell you what you're looking at here. The chart on the left is the vaccination chart showing the effectiveness of vaccination. The chart on the right is showing hospitalizations and the effectiveness of vaccinations. Now, you might be looking at this chart and going, this hurts my brain. What's all these lines? It's actually, when it's explained out, it's not as hard, it's not as complex as it looks. I'm going to go from the bottom up. So that bottom solid line, that line represents on the left the number of vaccinated people who get COVID. On the right, it is the number of vaccinated people who got COVID and ended up in the hospital. The large dashed line, the one that makes the big smile on the chart on the left, excuse me again, that line is number of infections for people not vaccinated. And on the right side is the number of people who are not vaccinated and get hospitalized. There is a dotted line, little dotted line that's in between the two of them. That dotted line is the average of the two combined together. The next one, if we continue to go up, is you have the line that kind of, if you remember I'm going to date myself. When they used to teach you geography and how to read paper maps, some people will recognize the dash dot line as, oh, that represents an international boundary. The rest of you are going, what the hell is this Gen X a-hole talking about? That line is the number of people who are vaccinated. So you'll see as this line goes, and those two lines are identical on each chart, and it starts below 40% and it gets up to about 65% in that chart. The top line, the line at the very top, is the one that is showing the effectiveness of the vaccine, looking at all of this data. All right. I hope that information was helpful. Kind of explaining the chart.
Journalists, activists.
I hit the wrong thing. In kind of explaining the chart and what I'm looking at. There is a link to that entire report in our most recent update, which was published about 20 minutes before we went on the air. So what's the dealio? At the start of this period, the vaccine was showing to be 91.7% effective at preventing breakthrough infections. It has gone down to 79.8%. If we want to do rounding, it was at 92%, it's gone down to 80%. So it's dropped 12%. So, somebody's like, oh God, it's 80% effective. There is no such thing as a vaccine that is 100% effective. None. For a corona-style virus, for a CoV-2 family virus, 92% effectiveness is really amazing. Dealing with the variant, this Delta variant, which is able to poke through because it is a virus that has changed the game. I know that the term, this is a totally new virus, has been used. I don't like using that because I think that sends the wrong message to people that aren't as deep in the weeds on this as I am and a number of people in my audience. It isn't a new virus per se, but it is definitely a more tricky virus to our immune system. Here's the good news. When it comes to hospitalizations bounced between a range of 92% to 95%. So what we're seeing is overall effectiveness of the vaccine went down. The vaccine has maintained its ability to prevent infection that can lead to hospitalization. And remember, in order to get into the hospital, if you're vaccinated, you have to kind of win the lottery a few times. The first thing is you've got to win the COVID lottery. You've got to get a case of COVID. That's number one. Then the second thing is you have to get a case of COVID severe enough to land you into the hospital. And we know that if you are vaccinated, even with this data that we have right now, the chances of you dying from COVID if you are vaccinated in the state of Washington is about equal to dying in a motorcycle accident. If you are vaccinated, you have a 1 and 1,286 chance of ending up in the hospital versus a 1 in 18 chance if you are unvaccinated. The data, the report, and something I always say, we do not, like if you're new to the show, hi, thank you. Please share, amplify, spam hearts, let the mods and admins know that you love them and they appreciate what they do for you. So with that said, if you're new to the show, we're seeing something here that is indicating that this is still very highly effective. And we don't link to abstracts. If there is a medical paper that comes out, we link to the entire medical paper, and that's what we've done here. If the entire medical paper is available, for people will know, Dr. and Mrs. Malcontent is a doctor, and sometimes I go to her and I go, can you pull this paper for me? And yes, I can get access to papers that maybe are not fully, so I don't want to say every, but we do not rely on just reading some news story with 3 paragraphs because there's so many ways to spin the stuff. There's some other news that's come out that supports this. There is another study that has come out that is looking at data across the country. That study was published in the New York Times. It is indicating that 74% of all breakthrough cases. So first of all, what we've seen, right, is we've seen this reduction in effectiveness by about 12%. 74% of all breakthrough cases are people over the age of 65 and typically people that have multiple comorbidities. Now, I'm going to stop here right now because what we're back into the position of is we're killing grandma and grandpa again if you're not vaccinated. And you're taking yourself out maybe at the same time. Please get vaccinated. Just please. And again, one other thing, and I'll say it again, no vaccine is 100% effective. You're going to argue that some vaccine is 100% effective? Drop a link to a study of any vaccine that's 100% effective. Drop the link. Would love to see it. Not link to like bobshouseofvaccines.com, like the Lancet, JAMA, CDC, NIH, WHO, medical publications, reliable, not PragerU, Yale, Harvard, University of Nebraska, University of Illinois. They do great research. Stanford, drop the link. Let us know. I'd love to see a vaccine that's 100% effective. That analysis, I want to give credit to Dr. Katrine, goes by Kat, Dr. Kat Wallace of the University of Illinois, Chicago. This was the person that brought this study from the CDC that was published today to my attention. It was actually published late last night. So thank you so much. We've already kind of talked about hospital status here in the state of Washington. And remember, when we're at these numbers, we're at numbers here now where it's like, don't get in a car accident, don't get in a house fire, don't have an industrial accident at work. This is kind of the numbers we're at, because what's happening now is you have people that are getting turned away who have serious or complex injuries. And so you need to understand that. Now, the other thing that the hospitals in the state of Washington are stressing is if you feel sick to the point that you're like, my leg shouldn't look like that. You see my pinky? That's my shin. That's like my shin sticking out of my leg. If you feel you need a hospital, they are stressing, go to the hospital. But they're also stressing you might be waiting for a while before somebody sees you. The other thing is, I think that's so important for people to understand. People hear, elective surgery is delayed, and they think things like tonsillectomies and nose jobs. Elective surgeries being delayed are tumors being removed. Heart valve replacement. It's basically like the person comes in and they're like, all right, you're still functional, or your cancer has metastasized. So we're going to push this off because the tumor's growing slow. That's what they mean by delaying elective surgeries. And so there is an effect of people that are that will die because of cancer, a heart attack, a stroke, complications of infection from an injury that couldn't get treated. And those deaths aren't going to be counted as COVID deaths. They're going to be counted as cancer deaths but COVID contributed to delay in treatment, delay in surgery when our hospitals get overloaded like this. And this is the end result. I'm going to say it again. Please get vaccinated. Yesterday on our story, we covered Governor Inslee's mandate for schools, for K through 12, college, to go ahead, that vaccines are required by October 18th. Technically, final dose of vaccine is required by October 4, depending on the vaccine that you pick. This also extends to childcare workers in the state of Washington. It includes employees, contractors, and volunteers working in licensed or license-exempt facilities. Now, individuals that just do babysitting. So you're 16 years old, you're babysitting the neighbor's kids. No, you don't have to do that. If you're grandma and you're watching, 3 kids of one of your relatives, your grandkids, no, you're not part of that mandate. This is for people who are employed or volunteered in licensed or license-exempt facilities, and doesn't count for people who are just watching the neighbor's kid, watching a relative, so as long as they are all within the same household. Individuals got a medical condition, have recently been infected by COVID and have been told they need to wait 90 days before they get a vaccine, or have a deeply held religious belief can apply for an exemption. But the state of Washington said they're not just going to rubber stamp these exemptions. They say they're going to be, quote unquote, deeply vetted. And we had brought up yesterday in our story, and we bring it up again today. I'm going to bring it up tonight. In Jacobson versus Massachusetts, which is in 1905, the Supreme Court of the United States determined that the states have the power to mandate vaccines. Also determined that the federal government does not have the power. That power is remunerated to the individual states and entities within those states. We've already seen a challenge in the state of Indiana that went to the Supreme Court, and that challenge was dismissed without review and not referred to a lower court. And it's also very important to note that the federal district court that sided against the people who were trying to end the vaccine mandate at the University of Indiana, 2 of the 3 judges that looked at that were Trump appointees, and Amy Coney Barrett, who is a Trump nominee for the Supreme Court, also was like, nope. Jacobson versus Massachusetts has been litigated so many times. We're going to get into some of the national stuff that's going on, and where there's an interesting situation in Texas. But Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton has consistently come across as a guy that doesn't really understand constitutional law. I see all of these comments just sailing by, and let me see here. No, I don't want that. I just had something close here. Check out the moon. I can't check out the moon. Something here about Marla. What's Marla? Oh, Marla. Marla's in the house. Hello, Marla. I'm hearing more stories of people who have family in the South, in the Southwest, in the flyover states that are losing relatives. I'm hearing a ton more stories of this. And so I'm like, get vaccinated. Come on. John Hopkins reported almost 138,000 new COVID cases for the United States. 70% of states are not reporting COVID data on a flippin' daily basis. 70% of the states. That's one of the reasons why these numbers are like this. You have Nebraska, Iowa, and Florida who only report their data once a week. Of course, and Nebraska was on the brink of not reporting any data anymore. And then things got bad. And okay, we'll keep reporting it once a week. So this is one of the reasons when you look at the daily numbers, they go like this. 1,145 COVID deaths. That's the second day in a row in the United States where there have been more than 1,000 deaths. So we're not going in the right direction. Nationwide positives are 11.35%, which is bad. That says there's widespread community transmission across the United States. If you look at the map of where there is high transmission on the CDC website, it basically looks like a Republican's wet dream election map of it's basically all red, which is not good. Nationwide, 77% of all ICU beds nationwide have an ass in them right now. Of that, 1 out of 3 people in those ICU beds have COVID, which is some of the highest levels we have ever seen. And we are not to what most call the 4th wave. And we here in Washington State, we're having our 5th wave because we had our first little in March. Then in early April, it kind of went down, it bubbled, but there was a little, like a ripple. You got to squint to call it a wave. We had like a ripple in the late August time, and then it went down, and of course things really blew up after that. Burnout among nurses is reaching a crisis level, and there's another thing that I want to talk about, which is long-term care facilities. One of the reasons that our hospitals here in Washington State are so full is there are people that are in acute care beds who are ready to move to a long-term care facility. They no longer need acute hospital care, but they're not ready to go home yet. So they have to go into a long-term care facility where they may get occupational therapy or physical therapy. They're going to get their meals provided. They might get help getting dressed, or they might get help getting showers. They've got a rope that they can pull. But, they don't have the person coming in and checking their temperature, and maybe they're getting wound care. And again, it's beyond something what somebody can do at home. There is a huge shortage of people, and there's just a general shortage of long-term care facilities. The reason for this is that the people that work in these facilities get paid nothing because insurance companies pay next to nothing for long-term care. So part of what's happening is you have people that work in these facilities, and I said this before maybe on Monday. I heard from a nurse who said to me off the record, they could pay me bad or they could treat me bad, but they can't do both. And so what's happening is the more skilled workers who are getting burned out, what they're doing is they're becoming traveling physical therapists, traveling pharmacists, traveling nurses, or traveling doctors. And they're making fat stacks. They're making it rain. And the other thing that's happening is where Texas and Florida, like Texas is messaging nurses, sending them texts. We're going to pay you $10,000 a week. And there are $10,000 a week. They got to work 72 hours a week, plus they're going to get their room and board paid on top of the 10 grand. And they're saying no. They're like, I'm not doing this, because it goes back to the burnout. So one of the things that's really bottlenecking hospitals here in Washington is a shortage of long-term care facilities and a shortage of people that work in the long-term care facilities. Here's another challenge that you have because the pay is very low. You have people that work in these facilities that tend to gravitate more towards anti-vax, anti-mask views. And you have facilities, forget the mandates. You've got facilities that are like, you've got to wear a mask. You're in around, and people have already left going, you can't make me wear a mask for my job. I'm not doing that. Vaccination rates for nurses is around 7 out of 8. So it's in the mid 80%, it's 83, 85%. Doctors are a little over around 93%. I know 95% is kicked around. And then again, you get people that get pedantic. They're like, it's like 92.8. So it's like 93%. For people that work, as like, caregivers, med techs, vaccination rates are down around 60%. There's no good, easy answer here beyond insurance companies make a shit ton of money, and people that work in healthcare shouldn't be treated as for-profit disposable assets. And as we are, it took me a while to buy into the term late-stage capitalism, but as we move into late-stage capitalism, the further up the food chain, the more you're being looked at as just a disposable asset. So anyway, we've beat that point into the ground. If you have plans to buy a new Toyota RAV4, Corolla, Camry, or Lexus ES in the near future, you should probably go to your local Toyota dealer like tomorrow, and only if you can cut a great deal. If you could wait, you should probably wait. Toyota's announced that they are going to have to cut global production by 40%, in part because they can't get microchips because of COVID, and in part because there is a major outbreak of COVID in Malaysia. And a number of some of their largest parts suppliers are completely shut down. And it impacts a ton of different vehicles. But for the United States, if you were looking for, as I put in the article, if you're looking for Heche and Nippon, because there's people who are like, I'm going to buy a RAV4, but I don't want the US one. I want one with the Japanese VIN. It's going to be better. If that's what you want, the supply in those are going to get, they're going to get tight. We had this, I'm going to skip this one. We had that one on our, we've already covered that one on Twitter. Arkansas, we reported on Monday that numbers were starting, like Arkansas was really kind of starting to look like it was flattening out. And no, they were actually, and there were others who were like, Arkansas's hitting its peak, and it's just going like that again. Hospitalizations are climbing again. I got mixed feelings about this Republican governor in Arkansas. I'm sure most Republicans think he's friggin' socialist Democrat in disguise, and I have a hard time going, right on, you didn't ban masks. Good to go. That's progress. Of 262 school districts in Arkansas, 118 have issued full-on mask mandates. 87 have banned them, and the rest of them have not made a decision yet on, or have no official policy on what to do with masks. The other thing is, which there is some good news out of Arkansas, Arkansas now has, of eligible people that can get vaccination, they're up to 51%. So what are we learning here? And what can we learn from Arkansas? Number one, when you have a state governor, regardless of their political stripes, who is supportive of things like vaccination, mask mandates, and isn't interested in political grandstanding to try to grab the base of Trump supporters to further their political career, and you have the reality check, which is unfortunate and sad, and it shouldn't have had to come to this. But when you have the reality check of your friends, your neighbors, and sadly, your children dying, people stop getting their healthcare advice from Parler and Telegram and memes and stop buying heartworm pills and horse dewormer. And by the way, there was a news story where somebody killed themselves with horse dewormer, because of course there is. Next state I want to take you to is Hawaii. It's really bad. It's really, really bad in Hawaii. And the challenge that you have with Hawaii in the condition that they are in is it is a 5-hour plane ride to Hawaii from Seattle. This is not a state where it's like, we need nurses, we need doctors, we need PPE, we need ECMO machines, there is this thing called the Pacific Ocean that makes it really hard to get stuff there. Straub Hospital, which is the major hospital apparently in Honolulu on the island of Oahu. Honolulu is the biggest city. It is the biggest city in Hawaii. It's not the capital city. It's Hilo on the Big Island, but it is the largest city. Their ICU is at 125% capacity. So that means they're turning areas into ICUs to add to that capacity. They are triaging patients in a tent outside. And earlier this week, also on the island, Queens Health System announced they have run out of ICU capacity. Straub Hospital is using military battlefield triage protocols. There are 7 levels of triage, and they're at level 5. So what happens at level 6 is, at level 6, you're now starting to look at people and go, okay, this person is over 65 and they got multiple comorbidities and their sickness is here and they're retired, their kids are all grown, they're not married. And that person is going to get deprioritized potentially on criteria that goes beyond their medical situation if they have to go to level 6. And this isn't just for COVID patients. This could be someone coming in a car accident, somebody coming in from a stroke, heart attack, pulmonary embolism, severe accident. They don't want to ever get to 7. 7 is called black tag triage. If you get to level 7, you're playing God. You're deciding who lives and dies at the triage point. And we're not going to treat this person. We do not have the resource for this person. And they move them to comfort care. They put them on morphine, give them oxygen, and they put them on what's called comfort care. The situation is bad in Hawaii. It's really bad. I'm furious about it, in part because Hawaii had done a pretty good job of protecting itself on the island. They had a lot of restrictions up on tourism. It was very difficult to get there. They lifted a lot of those restrictions, and this is the reward that the American people have given to the nation of Hawaii, which, let's not forget, is a totally stolen land that is basically under a military occupation, if you study your history. I get no great joy in telling stories like this. I really don't. Missouri State Representative Sarah Walsh. So she's at the state representative level. She is running to fill U.S. Representative Vicky Hartzler's seat in the 4th congressional district in Missouri. Avowed anti-vaxxer and avowed anti-masker, along with her husband, Steve. They both got COVID. They both landed in the hospital. They both got significantly sick. Sarah Walsh was able to come out the other side. Her husband, Steve, could not. And her husband, Steve, passed away today. When she was asked why she had not been vaccinated, her answer was, and I quote, "I am concerned about friends' negative reaction to the vaccine," and then said she didn't feel she needed it as she's been really healthy since the pandemic began. She lost her husband to political ambition. That's really hard for me to wrap my head around. That is really hard for me to wrap my head around. All for you, mein Führer. All for you. Yesterday, in our written blog, we reported Alabama was out of ICU beds. Mississippi, we reported, had to add a second round of additional hospital capacity. Samaritan's Purse volunteer organization had come in that normally doesn't work in the United States and set up a second field hospital. That second field hospital is almost full. They are down to 11 ICU beds. And they set a very inglorious record today of the most new cases, most patients hospitalized, most patients in the ICU, and the most patients on ventilators. Oregon, Governor Kate Brown announced that educators in the state of Oregon have until October 18 to receive a vaccination or face termination. Her plan in the state of Oregon is basically mirrors what was announced in the state of Washington yesterday. So if you're an anti-vax educator and you are not going to follow the coach of WSU, we're going to talk about him in a minute. And your plan was like, well, I'll just go to Oregon. Yeah, you're gonna have to pick up Plan C for that. In Texas, while Texas Governor Greg Abbott is battling COVID in isolation in the governor's mansion, even though kids and teachers are not afforded the same privilege of going into isolation if they have COVID but have already been vaccinated and won't get the level of medical care that Governor Abbott is getting, nor jump ahead to the front of the line to get a third booster shot, while not answering questions about what is going on with your health if you needed a third booster, what exactly is the state of your health, Governor? All of that aside, while he is working feverishly to ban mask mandates and vaccine mandates, I can't talk, in the state of Texas, the little town of Paris, Texas, with about 4,000 students in 8 schools, has found a loophole. What their lawyers had discovered is in Title 11 of the governor's power when he made this executive order. Title 11 is on things like dress codes. And Governor Abbott's executive order does not cover dress codes. And so what the school board did in Paris, Texas was, well, we're modifying our dress code and masks are now part of our dress code. And the word is, this is like pretty solid. I need a little water. To fight this, they would have to address this in another executive order. And you're going to look like a big ball of hypocrisy. But oh, that's right. People in Texas don't care about that. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, I had talked about him earlier, and his seriously, like, look up his track record on filing lawsuits on stuff. I don't understand what the people in Texas see in this guy, because his track record is just really bad. The San Antonio Independent, so ironic. It's so friggin' ironic. They call them independent school districts. They're independent school districts, but we're going to tell you what you can and can't do from the governor's mansion. You listen to us. Should have my cowboy hat for this. And then I would make people mad. You're making fun of us. Don't act like cartoons then. Anyway, Ken Paxton has gone after the San Antonio Independent School District. And the reason he's going after them is the school district has passed a vaccine mandate. And they are doing it under the grounds that them being prevented in passing a mandate violates the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, EEOC, rules. AG Paxton is going, no, it doesn't. Again, Jacobson versus Massachusetts. There's been all sorts of challenges from all different angles. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a constitutional lawyer. I have read more in the late hours of the night. I'll be doing a lot of reading between the real job and this. I have read more about James versus Massachusetts than any non-lawyer should. It's an uphill battle at best. That is my non-lawyerly opinion on this. Georgia, parents and I wrote about this on the Facebook page last week on Saturday about they have a plan. They want to ixnay the school system, say. And in Cobb County, Georgia, this is what's going on. Parents are starting to yank their kids that can out of the Cobb County school system. They're only 3 weeks in. And what's going on there is the parents were told in the spring, you need to sign up for either in-person or remote class. And at the time, all of the kids got a social distance, kids have the mask, were in place. So parents operated on, well, this will be the rules when we're set up, and so this is how we're going to go. And then Cobb County passed no masks in schools. And it's going about as well as anybody could expect. There are entire classes that are being shut down because of COVID sickness and COVID exposures. Things got very heated earlier this week when a group of parents showed up to show their support for masks. They significantly outnumbered a anti-mask group that was there. And the anti-mask group was described as a lot louder and a lot meaner. Threats were made, etc., but nothing has really come of this. Hey, Georgia, your pediatric ICUs are between 75 to 90% full. You're nowhere near your peak. I'm just putting it out there. Wisconsin. This is another one I'm not happy to tell you. Republican State Senator Andre Jacques. He's one of the most conservative lawmakers in Wisconsin. He's an outspoken critic of masks and mandates, and he's not vaccinated, and he's in the hospital with COVID. Jacques is married. He's 40 years old. He has 6 children, good conservative values. And he said that multiple members of his family are also sick. And if it's multiple members of his family, then that, of course, would include children and potentially his spouse. On Wednesday, his team got very tight-lipped on his status. They would only say that he has pneumonia, he is very tired, but in good spirits. And his legislation office said is, we are also following all COVID protocols. I don't know what that means. Last thing I'm going to talk about is in Minnesota. Actually, second to last thing on COVID that we're going to talk about is in Minnesota. Minnesota has growing pediatric cases going on over there also. I don't know if you saw this news. If you're wondering how much a COVID vaccination is worth to a football coach, we have the answer. $3.1 million a year. Apparently, when you're paid $3.1 million a year, the highest paid state employee in Washington, and you're like, I'm not getting vaccinated, and now you're going to lose your $3.1 million a year if you don't. Apparently, that's where the bar is, because Washington State University football coach Nick Rolovich has said, I'm going to get vaccinated. Fine. I think there's something, as much as I'm bringing on the snark as I say that, I think there's something that's important here to understand, right? Because what we hear... And there is a fair number of belief of people say in the medical community, right? It's like, oh, all these nurses are going to like, the maximum number of nurses are going to leave is 17% because 83% are vaccinated, full stop. Out of the 17% that's left, there's going to be some who are not vaccinated who have a bona fide, legitimate religious reason. So it's not 17%. Of that 17%, there are going to be some who have a bona fide, legitimate medical reason. So it's not 17%. It's less than that. Then of the slice that is left, just like Nick Rolovich. Nick Rolovich was in Sound and Fury. There's nurses out there, Sound and Fury. Some of them are going to leave. There's no doubt about it. I believe most of them are going to stay in. Now, unlike what we put on the website here, I can elicit more opinion than what I'm writing on the website. I feel Governor Inslee's view that most teachers that don't want to get vaccinated, they said the number was well in excess of 70%, and in many counties over 80%. We can guess where the 80% are, and we can guess where the 55 to 60% are. I mean, we just look on the map. You know, if you're out in Franklin or Benton County or Cowlitz County, then and if versus say Island County or King County or Snohomish County, just look at the numbers. Teachers are paid crap. They got to put up with endless bullshit. This is my view. If you have a teacher that is burned out, cooked, they're on the fence, they're not being paid well, I'm there like really to their core of their being, I'm here for the children. And now they've been hit with this. I think they're going to walk. I think our superintendent of schools, Jay Inslee, is underestimating how many are going to walk. I don't think like this is a catastrophe, but like in nurses, there's not going to be a lot of nurses that leave. They're just, and they're going to maybe go to another state. Tomorrow we're going to write about Bonaventure. If you have, I'm just going to say this. If you have a elderly family member, they are in a Bonaventure-owned, managed long-term care facility, find another facility. Straight up. We're going to write about Bonaventure tomorrow. Because holy ass crackers, get them out. Bonaventure's evil. I can say that here. I can't write it. I can say it because I'm expressing opinion. Anyway, if you want a COVID vaccine, yeah, apparently $3.1 million is enough motivation to get a COVID vaccine. All right. I've seen the comments just rolling by. Wendy, thank you. You're welcome. Really appreciate that. By the way, go ahead and spam those hearts one more time. Spam those hearts. Let our mods and admins know how much you love and appreciate them. Wow. Tons of comments here. Melly. I don't know if you go by Mealy or Melly. Melly here. I live in Franklin. Most of our anti-vax teachers are far right and 3%ers. Good riddance. Look, just as politics doesn't have a place in school, full stop. Understanding political history as part of, say, civics and history training, I think is very important. But then coloring what you're teaching steeped in politics, for instance, like in South Dakota, how we're going to totally like whitewash all this Native American history and just barely teach it. And like, it's friggin' South Dakota. It'd be like, this is like Massachusetts going, we're not going to teach about the Wampanoag anymore because it gets real uncomfortable when we get to King Philip's War. Then things get really uncomfortable. We don't like to talk about that. I'm kind of like, also 78% statistics are BS. I hate COVID. Farmer Barb, we love you and we hate COVID. No takebacks, Texas. I see this comment. No, imagine if Texas had done their secession thing. We're going to Biden's president. Could you just imagine the shithole Texas would be between their electrical grid collapsing and now the position that they're in right now? We need aid. We need to ask that country we left for aid. We can't ask Mexico at our other border. We're not going to go to those poofters in Europe. Oh my God, we got to go ask Russia or China. There's no one left. Could you just imagine? I watched a Texas event literally today. Oh my God. I don't think I have Chevy Chase. I know people are tired.
These are shot.
Cannibalistic humanoid underground dwellers.
There you go. We could do that one there. I'll tell you this. I lived in Texas for 8 years, and the whole thing, it's a whole nother country. It sure is. All right. We're going to talk about Floyd Roseberry. That we've learned that his name is Floyd Roseberry. A lot of people thought it was Roy Roseberry. Roy is probably abbreviation for Floyd. If you don't know who Floyd Roseberry is, Floyd made big news today. Floyd got in his pickup truck, loaded it up with a bunch of shrapnel. There's no other way to describe what his intent was. Claimed that he had a improvised explosive device. In fear of angering the social media gods, I am not going to get into what he said it was made out of. Oklahoma City. We'll just say that. Oklahoma. If you know what movie that's from, I love you. And called 911 on himself and was like, I'm out here and I want to go boom, boom. And I want to talk to Joe Biden. And so authorities show up and he's got like it's not a coffee, like a big can. He appears to be holding what might be a detonator in his left hand. Basically is saying, if anybody comes, if anybody tries to shoot me, the sniper takes me out, my hand's going to let go. And when everything blows up, 2.5 blocks are going to get taken out. But I'm peaceful and I don't want to hurt anybody. That's why I packed the inside of my truck full of shrapnel. And he would vacillate from like gaslighting to like anger. There's a video. We downloaded the video before Facebook yanked it down. It's 31 minutes long. We had it up on our website. Oh, Mama KDM wins the internet. Here's our moderator, Ty, to tell her what she's won. Go ahead and tell her, Ty. Anyway, I'm not going to hurt anyone, but that's why I packed my truck full of shrapnel. And, he's demanding to talk to Biden. Democrats are evil. Looking at his Facebook page, it was full of tons of pro-Trump stuff. He went to the Million MAGA March in November 14. People referring to his wife. I've seen some articles now referring to him as ex-wife. Ex-wife said he voted for the first time. He's 49 years old. 49. Voted for the first time in 2016 and never voted before in life. So, Telegram. It's just like, oh my God, right? Telegram, Fox News, Newsmax. They took him from voter to radicalized domestic terrorist in 5 years. And I'm going to stress this, right? Because do you remember when we had this terrible incident in Georgia where the women at the massage parlors were killed in this, what's been called a hate crime? And do you remember what the sheriff said? Cherokee County Sheriff? He was having a really bad day. It was a really bad day. Having a bad day. People don't wake up having a bad day and murder 8 people. And then there was like, well, his mother died and he's been really distraught about that. Lots of people have parents die. Lots of people are having their parents die tonight due to COVID. And for the last year and a half, none of them got in a pickup truck full of shrapnel, drove and parked outside of the Library of Congress up on the sidewalk as next to the building as they could get, and claimed that they had enough boom boom to take out 2.5 city blocks. And here's what we have to buy into if we're going to play the mental illness card. One, that only white men between the ages of 18 to 50 years old who were born in the United States have this mental illness where they snap and want to kill everybody in sight or start blowing things up and then actually decide to execute their plans. And that this is a unique situation to the world, to the United States. That's number one. The second thing is, if we're going to play the mentally ill card, is let's remind everybody here that even if he didn't have boom boom, to get to the point of I'm going to gather up all of this stuff, I am going to make it look very convincing that I have boom boom. I am going to create a cover story that I am going on a fishing trip, and I'm going to drive from North Carolina to the Library of Congress. This takes rational thought and motivation. If you want to see what serious mental illness looks like, I'm talking to you, chuds. Serious mental illness is walking around the sidewalk at 3 a.m. in Seattle. That's what serious mental illness looks like. And a person in that state couldn't even drive a pickup truck, let alone all of the other stuff, and have the plan of, well, I'm going to call 911 and I'm going to do a Facebook Live. And then there's the third thing that we have to accept, that the United States has exclusive rights to mental illness equals violence. Anybody who dismisses this, or even, oh, it's mental illness, you legitimize it, you minimize it, and you stigmatize people who have real mental illness. Because we have raging mental illness in this country. Raging. And 99% of the people are high functioning members of the society that most people wouldn't even pick up on that they have it. This was a domestic terrorism because it was designed to create terror. It is the definition of domestic terrorism. And it was planned, and it was calculated, and it was done because Floyd Roseberry has been fed poison to his brain, and he is brainwashed and radicalized. And that is on the Republican Party, the people that enable it, and the people that make excuses to organizations like the Three Percenters, Patriot Front, the Proud Boys, Post Millennial, Andy No, Ari Hoffman, and yes, people like Dave Preston of Safe Seattle. And that's all there is to it. And we will continue to see more of this. Now, I want to caveat this because I had this thought when this was going on, because he had brought up Afghanistan a couple of times. If he had been a veteran that had done multiple tours in Afghanistan, that's so edge case. Then I could maybe buy into he's snapped. But nobody should be looking at Floyd Roseberry through the lens of, well, he needs help. Yes, he needs help, but he also needs a prison cell. Because the Department of Justice needs to come down as hard on people like Floyd Roseberry as they have come down on 326 people facing federal charges for Black Lives Matter protests that happened over about a 7-month period in the United States across the country. By the way, almost double that number have been arrested and are facing federal charges for the insurrection. Think about it. Just think about it. Yeah, Roger just put it best. It was premeditated and carried out. He's a domestic terrorist, not mentally ill. And I just agree. Yeah, Q's in there too. Absolutely. The whole Q-apalooza there. Oh, no, wait. You know what, Shell? The Chuds are saying it was a false flag. It was a false flag. He's a Democrat plant. It's a false flag. They were doing this because they want distraction from what's going on in Afghanistan. Anybody who had functioning brain cells saw that this story essentially died by lunch today. By lunchtime West Coast, this story was out of the news cycle, and it was right back to Afghanistan. All right, let's go to the question of the day. What's your guilty pleasure? When nobody's looking, when it's late at night, and you're like, okay, it's snack time. Nobody's around. Nobody's gonna know. I'm gonna stuff that wrapper down at the bottom of the trash can where no one's gonna find it. What is it? What are you going for? Shelly says donuts. Marla says peanut butter. Roger, he's part of Antifa. Dora, you can't share. Dora, we're talking about food, okay? Oh my goodness. Dora. Got to go to my happy place now. Go to my happy place. Nutella out of the jar. Kimberly, I like how you roll. Roger, I haven't had popcorn in forever. Potato chips, and I'm not hiding anything. Duck fat. Whoa, K variable. I like how K variable rolls. Shell, Ben & Jerry's. Wow, Catherine is somewhere apparently like in the Texas area. If it's Blue Bunny. No, it's not Blue Bunny. Or is Texas Blue? Is it Blue Bunny? Isn't that Texas? Isn't that like the state ice cream of Texas? Blue Bunny cookie dough ice cream. Cupcake. Wait a minute, Rashi. Cupcakes and Slim Jims together? Cupcakes and Slim Jims together, or just cupcakes and Slim Jims? Snickers. Melly wants a Snickers. Kellen, cool. Oh, man. Kellen love Cool Ranch Doritos. Dora, cereal at night. That's one of mine. Definitely. Texas's Bluebell. Thank you, Ursine. Yeah, like Blue Bunny like Iowa? Is that like Iowa? In the upper Midwest? Is that where Blue Bunny is? Or am I just getting this all mixed up? It's funny. I was like, no, it's Blue Bonnet. I was like, no, Blue Bonnet was a crappy brand of margarine when I was a little kid. Strawberry cheesecake ice cream. Wow. Those Gerber Toddler food meat sticks in a jar. Whoa. Courtney's into the giant pickles. One after the other. Fries dipped in vanilla shake. Yeah, that's a popular one. I've never tried that. This is how we eat every day, so I don't want to be criticized. Elmar, Dick's vanilla. Boy, I'm not a huge fan of Dick's. Dick's kept me fed last year, like this time last year. As most malcontents know, I was eating a lot of Dick's. Yeah, some chud's going to cut that clip. Eating a lot of Dick's and a lot of Rancho Bravo and Dirty Dog. Oh, good Lord. You're just going to have so much. So Chud could just go so fun with that. Marla's Oreos. I don't have Oreos that often. Funny story. Dr. and Mrs. Malcontent, she didn't grow up in the United States. She's like, Oreos she doesn't get. She thinks they're totally gross. And I'm just like, they're amazing. And she thinks they're totally gross. Chili Mac. That's a big time Texas thing, the Chili Mac. Everything. Roger just gave his age away. I've never had a float at Dick's. Devil's Food Cake, no icing. Oh, Ty. Ty and I have very similar guilty pleasure food tastes. Very, very. We have very similar food tastes. Korean, I haven't had good Korean fried chicken in forever. I'm loving this. The Dick's jokes never gets old. Oreos are vegan? What? Is Jennifer in the house? Oreos are vegan? Marla, is that really? Shell saying it's true. Wow, I didn't know this. Hot Cheetos and Takis. Yeah, you were asking them out for dinner, Courtney. Look at this. Everybody's like, Oreos are vegan. I did not know this. So what you're telling me is I can eat Oreos and I can lie to myself on how healthy they are? Kellen, I can destroy a whole cheesecake. That's fantastic. All kinds of junk food are vegan. I really had no clue that, or I would have figured there had to be because eggs, butter, right? It's a freaking cookie. I was like, God, it's got to have some, even if they don't have like whole eggs, well, we got a couple of drops of egg yolk in there or something. They tried to cut the cost and took the dairy out and made all the vegans happy. Wow. Not healthy vegan. Joy, boiled peanuts. I lived in Texas 8 years. I don't think I ever had boiled peanuts in the 8 years that I lived in Texas. I don't think I ever tried. I tried a lot of stuff in Texas, and I learned to like a lot of different foods in Texas. I was not a drinker at all when I moved to Texas, and apparently there's a state law there that requires you to drink beer. And I didn't want to get shot on the side of the road by a chud, so I started drinking beer when I was in Texas. And now people make fun of Bud Ice as like being like trailer trash beer. I drank a lot of Bud Ice. I thought it was very yummy. Roadside boiled peanuts in Alabama. Tacos, and more. Hey, Maddie, back away. Those tacos are mine. Texas. Well, I was in Deep East Texas. I don't use a bowl 180 ice cream spoon. Y'all are just blowing up the comments tonight. I see the number of viewers are going down. I think I'm going to wind up the strewn here. Blue Bunny is Lamar's, Iowa. First ingredient, buttermilk. That's what I see. The reason I got them mixed up between Blue Bunny and I lived in Texas, and I lived right on the border of Iowa. And I know that both states take their local ice cream really seriously. Particularly in Texas. Okay, what's mine? I'm going to tell a little story. If you ever saw the movie Zombieland, Woody Harrelson's character was on a quest. The whole movie was Woody Harrelson's motivation to find Twinkies. That wasn't his only motivation. That was a big part of his motivation. He wanted to find Twinkies. And so Woody Harrelson, they find a Hostess truck that is wrecked on the side of the road. He's like, we got to stop. We got to stop. And of course, there's all the argument because it's like zombies come out and no, Twinkies. And he opens up the truck and he gets in and he's furious. And he's pulling all the stuff out there and he's jumping up and down on the packages that came out of the truck. And they're like, what's wrong? And he's like, this is nothing but goddamn snowballs. I hate snowballs. If we were in the zombie apocalypse and I found a Hostess truck full of snowballs, I would just be, y'all can leave now. I'm going to die happy when the zombies show up. I am now going to eat as many snowballs as I can, and I'm going to die a happy man. Guilty pleasure for me is snowballs. I love snowballs. Roger, it's a hysterical movie. So anyway, now you know my guilty pleasure. There were other ones that y'all popped up on there. About twice a year, I'll get a hankering for the Kraft macaroni and cheese, and I will put a can of tuna in it and heat up some frozen peas and mix that all together. And that was college food. I was super fueled through college on Kraft macaroni and cheese, tuna fish, And peas. I probably had it a couple of times a week. And my mouth's watering just talking about it because every now and then I get a craving. Okay. With that, malcontents, everybody be good to each other. And with that, I wish everybody a good night. Get vaccinated. Wear a mask. Social distance. We're going to talk on Monday. There's just a lot to cover. We're going to talk on Monday about N95 versus cloth versus paper and what protection do you get and how masks work and all of that stuff. That will be a topic on Monday. And so with that, Malcontent out. Malcontent News is a team of journalists, activists, and researchers with 3 key missions. A commitment to show an unfiltered view of the before, during, and after of key events live as it happens. To defend the First Amendment using our rights of a free press. And to amplify the voices of underrepresented individuals including Black, Indigenous, persons of color, and the LGBTQIA+ community. Our team is committed to seeking equality for all and holding those in power accountable. The easiest way to support Malcontent News is to bookmark our website at malcontentnews.com, like and follow us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter, TikTok, Twitch, Instagram, and in the Google News app. To provide financial support, you can become a patron, make a one-time donation through Venmo, or link your Twitch account to your Amazon Prime account and use your free subscription to subscribe to Malcontent News. Thank you for supporting independent journalism and for being a malcontent.
You fit the profile. You're the malcontent.
Nobody wants to hear the nonsensical ravings of a loudmouth malcontent.
He said malcontents Antifa, fuck you!
You are the biggest hypocrite on the face of the planet.
I say that you're